Hey, welcome back for a birthday episode of Porn Rewire with me, Dr. Trish Leigh. Today, I want to focus on porn addiction, the 3 biggest lessons that I've learned. I want to share them with you. I want to tap into how important they are and celebrate the big 5-0 with you. So you will realize very quickly how pivotal it is for me to share my birthday with you and to share what I've learned throughout this life so far. Not that I know it all, but I've learned some things and I want to share it. So here's what we're going to talk about in this episode. The 3 biggest things that I've learned. Number 1 is challenge your own thought system as often as you can, and I'm going to break that down. Number 2 is the power of forgiveness, forgiving yourself, especially past versions of yourself, forgiving the people in your life who you think have harmed you and done you wrong, some of which may have. But forgiveness is essential. And then number 3 is connection through intimacy and vulnerability. I know we've talked about it before, all these concepts, but I'm going to put a bow on it in terms of a birthday celebration. Now, the reason it's really something different and special for me to share my birthday with you is because I realize there's got to be some childhood trauma or dysfunction or junk, as I call it, at the core of my birthday, because I do not like celebrating my birthday. Not that I'm opposed to it. I'm not anti-birthday, but I'm definitely not one to go, hey, it's my birthday, or to expect anybody to celebrate it with me. And I think it probably goes back to, growing up in a big family of 6 kids. And I have, 6 kids myself. It's the same. We have 3 boys and 3 girls. Both my husband and I come from families of 3 boys and 3 girls. So, you get lost in the shuffle in a big chaotic family. It's the way that it goes. And I was always the strong one. So guess what the strong one does? She doesn't care what happens with other people in the family. And she doesn't care if anybody sees her needs, meets her needs, and she doesn't go out of her way to get her needs met. So that's why this is different, because this year I'm sharing it with you. Last year, my team, they were amazing, and they put together a birthday reel for me, which was really, really sweet. So this year I thought I'd show up and kind of break some of that old programming and patterning, the junk that I'm always telling you to. Interestingly enough, I always buy myself a very good birthday gift too, and I always go pick up the cake for me. And again, it must just be like, why count on anybody else to do those things for me? I can just do them for myself, which clearly is a very strong survival instinct. But at the same time, I should let other people show up for me. So that's why that was really nice last year when the team showed up for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm still getting myself a birthday gift this year. This year, it's between a roof rack for my paddle boards, because now my vehicle is smaller. I've always driven a big SUV that I could fit 2 full-size paddle boards, fiberglass paddle boards, into the back of. Now I have a little smaller SUV. They won't fit. I'm gonna need a roof rack. We're moving into summer. Roof rack, great self-gift for the big 5-0. The other self-gift idea is a new punching bag. Now, I've had the General, who unfortunately got moldified. So instead of getting a new General, which I almost ordered myself, I have shared this with you before. I use the Fight Camp app, and it has its own boxing bag. It has a subscription to the app, and it has punchers that have trackers in it. Not that you care at all, but I thought I'd level myself up so I can track my punches and actually get better at boxing. So that's an exciting potential gift too. I'll let you know which one I got, but if you have a vibe, throw it in the comments on YouTube, because I'd love to see what y'all think. Okay, so thinking of my birthday, as we move through this world, there are 3 ends that influence, and no, it's not No Nut November. There's 3 other ends that influence how we move through the world. They're nature, nurture, and navigate. And going to number 1, challenge your thoughts, is that nature is what you were given when you were born. Your divinely inspired goals and purpose and makeup, how you were created. You didn't create yourself. You have made your own persona, and that's what we're going to parse out here in number 1. But you didn't create yourself. You're a divine creation, and you have inspiration within you that you didn't give yourself. It was given to you. So that's nature. Nurture is the environment you grew up in. Now, if that environment was harsh and wounded you and hurt you, I'm not taking that pain away, but I am here to tell you that if you stay in that pain of the past, you get the pain of the past in your present and future. So that's not what I want for you. What I want for you is to move through these three major things that I've learned and be able to get to the other side of that. But your environment and your nurture is important. So I believe we are all born into the families and the communities that have the most to offer our journey of evolution. So I'm all about self-actualization and taking this life as we know it and trying to squeeze all the learning out of it to become the best version of ourselves. And what does that mean? What that means is you figure out who you are, that big S self, the true self that was born within you, and you have the courage to live that life. And you learn along the way how to stay true to that course. And we've talked in a previous podcast about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, moving up the needs to be able to figure that out. So the environment that you live within can really squeeze you in a direction. So if you've been, the victim, I'm going to use that term, but I don't want anybody to stay in victim mentality. If you've been the victim of abuse, that abuse is real. But moving through this process can still be done. And this is the part I want you to anchor into. It's the navigate. And here's what I've learned and I'm reflecting upon today is that, a lot of the programming was me. It was my navigation of my environment using the divinely inspired gifts and tools that I was given. So a lot of the programming is me. And it's my little S self that programmed my big S self out of me. And what I mean by that is, that true authentic self that was in there when I was born, as I had to make my way through this chaotic family that wasn't seeing me. And, my family wouldn't even consider themselves chaotic. And I didn't consider my family with my kids chaotic until I looked at it. And I'm like, dang, I am creating chaos here. And I've worked hard in the last 5 years, which don't get me wrong, with the Moldageddon didn't help the cause, but to reduce the chaos in our life and get to more joy and peace. But what I realized was the way I'm navigating, it's creating a lot of that chaos. And yes, I learned it from the environment I grew up in, the big chaotic family. Also, brains don't fall far from the tree, so my brain was very much like my parents, and it no longer is. And I'm not really like my siblings anymore. Innately, I had this pull for self-actualization that moved me in a different direction. And I was talking to my younger sister the other day, and she said something. Well, actually, I asked her. Someone came back into my life that I haven't talked to in 25 plus years, a friend, an old friend. And he called me Trisha. And it made me realize my entire family calls me Trisha. And I'm like, why do they call me Trisha? I don't remember ever referring to myself as Trisha. So this is like blowing my mind right now. Like, when did I transition from Trisha to Trish? When did that happen? Without me even knowing. Like, I don't even ever remember being called Trisha. So I'm talking to my younger sister about this. And she's like, I do call you Trisha. And then she shouts off to her husband. She's like, what do you call Trish? Which of course now she's calling me Trish. And I'm like, he calls me Trisha too. They all do. And so does this old friend. So I'm like, I wonder when that transition happened. And my sister said this. She's like, when you went away to college and in those years that I met my husband, she's like, something happened in you and you became different. You started to become the person you are today. That's the navigation. I started navigating the world differently, probably at the age of 28. You've probably heard me say this before. 28, best year ever. It was so hard and so wonderful at all the same time. And honestly, I feel every year is like that since then. I was saying that to my youngest daughter. She's 12, and she's like, I wish it could be 8 again. I'm like, no, babe. You got to make every year your best year. Make 12 your best, then make 13 your best. But honestly, 28 was a really good one. I was partying my booty off while I was working really hard, finishing school and just laughing with friends. And it was a good time. And your brain develops until the age of 28. And literally that's when it starts degenerating. So I think I really enjoyed that sweet spot. But that's the time where I learned to navigate differently and to start questioning my programming. And it's a habit that I do now. So when I default to go do something, I'll go, whoa, is this my big S self, the one I want to be? Or is this the little S self, the one I made myself and I was programmed to be in the past? And I will literally parse this out in big decisions. Sometimes I'll default to that little S and I'll realize it in the moment and I will back that action out. And my husband was telling me a story last night or this morning about last night. This is one little example off the top of my head. He said he went into my son Seamus's room and he was going to kind of yell at him for something. And he knocked on the door. And a classic thing the hubs does is he only comes knocking when he's going to yell at you. But that is how he was programmed from his family, and he programmed himself to do that. And I've been telling him for a long time, don't just go knocking on kids' doors to yell at them because they're going to stop answering, my friend. So he said he knocked on the door and he was going to, discipline Seamus about something. And then he made a funny joke. And then Shay opened the door and had no idea what to do with it. And that's a perfect example of like old programming, just going into your kid's room to tell them to do something versus saying something funny and not going towards that old programming. Reprogramming yourself every single minute of every single day. And I try to do that, and I encourage you to do that. Especially in porn addiction recovery, what has happened is that as the addiction escalated over time, you became more of that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, little s self of yours on accident, inadvertently. It's what porn does to you. So just to go back, the more you're in the screen, the more you start thinking about pleasure and the more you start becoming egocentric. And literally when I'm talking about the little s, it is the ego I'm talking about. That Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you care more about how you look, the appearance to the world, and then you have bad habits you don't want anybody to know about. That becomes the thing you care about instead of being on purpose. That's really important, being on purpose and being authentic. And even if it looks different than your best friends or your sisters or your entire family, eventually people respect it and they see that's just you doing you. That's what I encourage you to do. So in your journal, get out your birthday page, big 50, can't believe it. Get out your birthday page and write this down. Who do you really want to be? So an easy way to do this is, and I do this frequently, what does your ideal day and your ideal week look like? Because this big concept of who you want to be seems conceptual, but the who you want to be are the thoughts and the actions and the way you move through the world every minute of every day. So map that out. Daily, what does your life look like? Weekly, what does your life look like? Is it balanced? Are you balancing your brain? Are you work heavy and not spending enough time with your family? Are your hobbies not getting any attention? Do you need to buy yourself a punching bag like me? So figure it out. Figure out on a daily basis, what does your ideal life look like? Because that's your big self. That's your big S self. That's the one that you're going to reprogram yourself, reparent that inner child to become. And if you do that in the moments, your life becomes different minute after minute. And, with my husband, I used to be that way. Anytime I saw the kids, I would tell them to do something, or I would correct them, or God forbid, I would teach them something. So now I don't teach them things. I am just weird with them. Sometimes I teach them, but really one of my skills is stop explaining things and just tell them the expectations in the family, not all the whys behind it. This is how it is, kids. You already know the whys. Now show up and be the best versions of yourself. And then be weird with each other. And Seamus is a perfect example these days. He's pretty funny. He rolls in whistling and singing weird songs. And I've been doing this for a while. You can't make your kids hang out with you, but when your kids are ready to hang out with you, you can abandon the other things that you were going to do. And this happened 2 days ago. Seamus came home from school. Honestly, I had to go do some things, but the house wasn't going to burn down if I didn't get the work done. So I stayed in that moment with him until he left. And it was like 40 minutes later that we just talked about nothing. We chatted. He told me about his life and his day. I didn't teach him anything. I didn't correct him. I tried to give him as much praise as possible. And I tried to just be fun and have fun with him so that we have a real authentic relationship, because that's what I want. On my deathbed, I want to remember the sweet, authentic, joyful, serotonin producing moments with the people I love. So I challenge you to do that too. That's why I'm here in these videos. I love making them. I love spending the time with you. I know it might feel weird, but it's really, really important to me. And when I do it, I'm reprogramming myself to be the person who shows up and gives as much love to the world as I possibly can, because that's the me that I want to be. I challenge you to figure out, who do you want to be? Okay, number 2, moving on, is forgiveness. Forgiveness. I know we got to talk about forgiveness, and I know you probably don't want to, because forgiveness is a difficult word. It's a difficult concept. It's hard to do, and it's important to do, because if not, if you don't forgive, you're only hurting yourself. You can only give what you have. So if you're giving a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of attack and a lot of irritability, it's because it's what you have inside. So I want to be really, really clear about that. Write that in your journal. You can only give what you have. So I try to have as much love and intention and happiness and joy and peace in my heart. And that is what I try to give to people all day long. Because as I give it, I receive. So forgiveness is essential. That's why I had to forgive the versions of me that didn't show up like I wanted her to. There's a couple really, crucial moments in my life, and I'm sure there's a couple crucial ones in yours, where you look back and you're like, dang, I wish I would have showed up better in that moment. And the way you forgive yourself is thinking about the circumstances that you were in and the tools that you had. So in a previous relationship, when I left that relationship, I did it poorly. The opposite of what I'm going to tell you in number 3. And it's because I was young and I didn't have the tools. Nobody taught me it. I had nobody modeling that behavior for me. I had to go way, way, way out of my way to figure out how to end a relationship with confidence and peace and love, not spite, not immaturity, not just cutting the cord and bouncing. But over the journey since then, I've learned that, and I can show up. And now I don't have to end relationships. I can continue them in a different way because I've learned that skill. So I can forgive that girl who did that, because she didn't know. She was doing her best with what she had in the moment that she had it. And yeah, she screwed up, hence the forgiveness. And I've asked the people involved to forgive me too. And I've come to peace in that, in my own heart, and so have the people involved. Then there's another instance where I tried to get peace and I tried to get resolution. I couldn't get the person to meet me in it. Now, these are the really tricky ones. I have a couple of those in my past. People couldn't meet me in the journey, but I had to find peace anyways. So I had to forgive them for the wrong that they did to me by realizing you can only give what you have. And that person has pain and anguish inside, and that's the only thing that they can give to me because of that. That's not about me. So I can forgive them, and I don't have to be mad at them. I don't have to attack. I can stay in peace and love like I want to, knowing that maybe that someday that person will come around and be able to meet me, but for now they can't. When it comes to people who have wronged you, this is the solution also. Looking at the version of them. If your parents abused you in any way, and we'll use this as a big T trauma example. If your parents physically or sexually abuse you, that's a big one to chew on. It's hard to go, how can I ever forgive them for that? But when you think about how they were programmed by their nature, nurture, and navigate, they're hurt people, and hurt people hurt people. You can only give what you have, what you know, what you model. And when you forgive them, you release yourself. And we know when it comes to porn addiction, shame and guilt are at the core of it. So that's why forgiveness is essential, to release everybody else that you're holding guilty and you're holding shameful, and also releasing yourself from the guilt and shame inside. Not a journey for the faint of heart, but a journey for those who want to live in peace and joy. Okay, moving on to number 3. Number 3 is connection with intimacy and vulnerability. Now, what I know about porn addiction from a long time in the process here is that At the root of it is difficulty with intimacy and vulnerability. If you're going into the screen, you're trying to get false intimacy in a place where there is none. And you're tricking your brain through a distorted unreality to think that you are in fact getting it, but you're not. So a huge part of this journey is wanting that real life connection in the world, just like my birthday. This is a really big one. I want to celebrate my birthday with people, but in the past I've been disappointed that people didn't want to celebrate my birthday with me because I taught myself that. So you may have taught yourself that I can't go in the world to try to build real connection because I'll be rejected. Fear of rejection is a huge reason that people keep going back into the screen instead of trying to make that connection with other people. You may have developed erectile dysfunction from porn. Good news is I got a new program coming out. This is not a shameful plug. I have been working on this ED program now for over a month, grinding on it because to my own detriment, honestly. But I am so excited to be able to bring this to you. If you struggle with ED, it's an arousal dysfunction in the brain. I can help you. And that arousal dysfunction prevents you from going to find the connection and the intimacy in the world because it's scary to be vulnerable when you don't know if you'll be able to perform. And you have to get vulnerable. And obviously it's easier to be vulnerable when you feel strong. So you wait for that ED program if you're in that position. But no matter what, getting out there and connecting is essential. And in recovery from anything, but especially porn addiction, joining something that is meaningful to you and getting connected in it is really, really important. That's why, people who celebrate their football team, the face painters out there, that's a really cool way of being connected to something. My bonus son, Connor, who probably would kill me if he knew I was talking about him, he loves the Buffalo Bills. And so funny, his mom bought him a license plate thing that goes on the front of his car that says #1 Bills fan. I'm like, dude, that license plate thing's a bit much. And he's like, it was a gift. He loves it though. He secretly loves it, which I love about him because he is totally part of the Bills Mafia, if you know what I mean. But that connection is really important to him. And you finding what you want to be connected to is really, really important if you've lost that connection. So number 3 is lost connections. Figure out what you've lost the connection to and get connected. I've talked on this podcast many times before about how it's difficult for me to establish friendships. I'm connected with my 2 besties. And I've told you about Chanel before, and she's shown up here and there. And my best friend Molly, who she's like, you can talk about me, So my best friend Chanel and Molly, for my birthday, I'm like, no, we're not going to celebrate, low key. I don't need anything. And they're like, hell no, we're going to do something. So it's really cool because they found a jazz club. You know how I love jazz and it puts my brain in a really great spot. And I didn't want to go out like partying, but we're going to a jazz club and we're going for a nice quaint Mediterranean dinner. So I am really excited to be celebrating with all my besties in a really awesome way. It's amazing that I've allowed myself to navigate into a life that has them. And I've allowed myself not to cut them off when it got difficult, just to move through it with them. You have to move through this stuff or you stay in it. And making sure you get connected to people that you care about and things you care about, like paddleboarding and boxing. And I can't wait to take my board out on the lake. The lake's right around the corner from me. And I am so excited to get back out there and get reconnected to nature on my paddleboard with, some of my peeps. And then, of course, get rocking out my boxing. That one I like to do alone. So connection, intimacy, vulnerability. That is it. Now, before I go, I want to talk about your partner if you have one, or if you want a partner, is that showing up for your partner in a new, healthy way, guilt-free, shame-free. If you're caught up in a porn addiction, it's not your fault, but it is in fact your responsibility. And I want you to know that as it's escalated, you have, disintegrated your personality from your true, authentic, big S self into that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And that has impacted your partner. Partners suffer until they realize they're strong, top-tier partners, and they won't let you punish them with your behavior. And again, they have to have a framework shift. But this is what I want you to know. You didn't hurt your partner on purpose. They're collateral damage, but not your fault, but yes, your responsibility. And this is the number one thing you can do. Show up and be vulnerable. Tell your partner what you need, your healthy needs. Like I'm talking about, I have a healthy need to connect with my besties on my birthday and not just ignore it like I normally do. Pretend it doesn't exist and sit at home reading by myself. That's a disintegrated personality, and I'm working hard to stay integrated. So out we go. So when it comes to your partner, approach and engage with healthy communication. Communication is the number one thing for healthy connection. Feel in your heart what you need and then communicate it in a healthy way. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need to get into a program with someone who can model that for you. I have been in coaching programs. I think I shared this on here before. From the time that I was 27 or 28, that's the first time I signed up for a coaching program. I've had coaches ever since. Right now I have so many coaches. My coaches have coaches. It's ridiculous because I'm getting myself out of this mold situation in a really beautiful way, because I know I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need coaches to coach my action out, and they're helping me so that I can do that. And it's awesome to be able to receive it on the other end in the way that I give it to people. But if you don't have someone that you can have a conversation with about your sexual needs or your intimacy needs, get that person. That's what we offer in my 90-day program. Zach Carter's the lead coach on that program. He offers a small group accountability group in the 90-day program, and he offers personal coaching. What I do is I do brain assessments. If you want to talk to me personally, sign up for QEEG Brain Map on my website. We can spend an hour together going through your brain performance pattern, your history, the way you use your brain, and your life. I can set you on a course knowing all of that. I can help you navigate in a new way if that's something that you want. If it's not me, find somebody who can help you figure out what you want and figure out how to communicate that to your partner and your people. It's essential. The whole 90-day program is basically designed to help you do just that, to flip your lifestyle into the lifestyle that your true, authentic self will thrive in and get out of survival mode of the little s self. All right. Well, thanks for sharing my B-Day with me. And I value you all so much, just so you know. I talk with people all the time. This community is an amazing thing for me. It gives me such life. I am so grateful to have you and to be able to help you in the challenges in your life, because I'm on a mission to eradicate porn from people's lives, from your life, help your partner deal with the aftermath, get you both back on track so that you can have a happy, healthy relationship with beautiful communication and stay in that healed relationship long term. If you don't have a partner, I want you to find a top tier partner that you can rock out your best life with. So again, I'm honored to be here on the journey with you, and I appreciate you so much. All right, have an amazing week. And as always, control your brain or it'll control you.